Good evening, class, and welcome to our performance management class for this evening. My name is Chima, and I am your lecturer and host for this class. In the last class, we were talking about short term decision making, and we mentioned that just after limiting factor topic, that short term decision making include things such as make or buy decisions, shut down, joint product and further processing, things like that. So we looked at make or buy decisions the last time, and we saw that for us to make or buy, which is what we call outsource decision, we need to look at the variable cost of making the product in-house and the purchase cost or the outsourcing cost. So we are looking at relevant cost of producing in-house and the relevant cost of buying externally. Whichever cost is lower, that's what we'll go for. Then we now saw a question where there is a scarce resource. Now in the aspect of scarce resource, we found out that if we are to check all the relevant costs of making the product versus outsourcing the product, you will favor making the product because the relevant cost of making the product in all cases seems to be smaller. But now, as you try to make the product, you cannot make all of them. So even though the decision is saying the relevant cost of making the product is cheaper, make it, you can't make all of them because of scarce resources. And so try as you may, you just have to give up some of those things that you are going to make and you have to spend more money. So the question is, how much will you spend? Because you are trying to minimize cost and maximize profit. So you are going to spend the lowest cost outside, and the one that will cost you high outside, you do it. So you're looking at the scarce resources, the contribution that the scarce resources will give you per unit or per hour. So you decide to make the ones that is going to cost you high, and you give out the ones that will cost you less. That way you are maximizing your profit and minimizing your costs. We saw two examples. Now we are going to take one more example, which is make or buy with scarce resource. All right, so that is our explanation for this or introduction. So now let's look at example 3. Make or buy decisions with scarce resource so that we can understand this again. A company makes 4 products W, X, Y, and Z. All 4 products are made on the same machine, right? So they're all using the same machine. So you need to make time for all of these. And the machine capacity for the year at Wombat's factory, so the company's name is Wombat's factory, is 3,500 hours. So what's the significance of this number of hours we are given? This is the maximum capacity it can take. So if you are taking a job that will require more than 3,500 hours, you just have to give up on some of these. Now, the company is able to obtain any of these products in unlimited quantities, so they can take more and more and more and more and more. But what they should watch out is, as you are taking more, be mindful of the number of hours you will take to do it. So why are they taking more? They will take it that if we cannot do all of them, we will prioritize the higher, the one that will cost us so much, and we'll do it. And we will give out the ones that will not cost us so much, so that we can meet our client's schedule and also make profit and also keep that client. Now, the company is able to obtain any of these products in unlimited quantities from a subcontractor. So the subcontractor is, it could even be more than one subcontractor, it could be more than one, it could be two, it could be three, as long as you can collect unlimited quantities. Now, this subcontractor's budget is as follows. Look at what the the budget that the company is going to follow is as follows. So now I want us to attack this question right now as we are looking at the information. So let's start. This is Wombas Factory. So I will start now, and I will start with this question. This example 3. Sorry, this example 3. Example 3. Okay, so that's it. Wombats Factory. So this is Wombats Factory. All right, so what are we to do next? The question is telling us that this is the product, that the data. We are given this annual demands, and we are given sales price, variable cost of making it in-house, cost of external purchase. So look at what I will do now. I will write this external purchase cost first. So I have W, X, Y, and Z. So this is W, X, Y, and Z. So these are the products. All right. Cost per unit, external. So this is the external cost per unit. So I'm going to come here now. 80, 118, 105, 110. Of course, this is Naira. This is in Naira. Then we are also looking at variable cost per unit manufacture: 50, 70, 60, and 70. So this is 50 here. This is 70, 60, and 70. So I will call this here variable costs internal. So this is in Naira. So if you look at the difference, you find out that the variable cost is bigger, no, is smaller than the external cost. So normally, if there is no scarce resource here, if there are no scarce resource, you will want to make W so that you spend 50 naira as against 80. You want to spend, you want to produce X and spend 70 naira as against 118. You want to spend on Y 60 naira as against 105, and you want to spend on Z, spend 70 as against 110. You want to produce them, but you cannot produce all of them because of scarce resource of labor hours. You cannot produce all of them. So which one of them will you not produce so that unfortunately you can spend on them? So the best thing to do here now is, now that we've written this, what is the difference, the extra cost on extra cost on extra purchase cost? So we are assuming now that, assuming you are to make or to outsource. So this is the extra cost on purchase. So you must spend at least 50 naira. But if you are to spend 80 naira, that means 30 naira is an extra cost. You must spend 70 naira. But if you are to spend 180, it means that the extra cost is 118 minus 70. Extra cost is 48 naira per unit. You must spend 60 naira, but if you must spend 105, that means the extra cost per unit is 45. You must spend 70 naira, but if you are to spend 110, the extra cost is 40. The extra cost here is 40 per unit. Now, normally we would have said, okay, the one that is 48 is the most highest cost. But if you look at it, the number of hours is also involved. This is cost per unit, and all of them are different units, right? It could take you different number of hours to make each of the units. So now you want to bring them to extra cost per hour so that you will know how much you are spending extra on an hour. So because these units have different hours, you need to harmonize them and say, okay, if I'm spending 30 naira on W per unit, what does it translate to spending it per hour? So that's what we are doing here now. We will now look at machine hours per unit. So you will come here, 0.25, 0.5, 0.3, and 0.4. Let me write them here. 0.25, 0.5, 0.3, and 0.4. Okay, assuming I got them fine, correct. This is machine hours per unit in-house. So I'll write it down here. Machine hours per unit. So all these are in hours. Okay, so what you're going to do now is you are going to divide by the machine So what you are going to get here is extra costs per machine hour. So it means that for 1 hour that you are going to use this machine, how much extra cost will you make if you are to make this product? So that will mean that anyone that you are going to make, that you are going to spend higher in making, if you are going to if you are going to spend higher cost per hour in that machine here, that means if you are going to give it out to others, that is how much cost you are going to be spending per hour. So let's look at it this way. We have 40 is written in this calculator, so let's not waste the figure. We'll say divided by 0.4. That means I have 100 naira in 1 hour. So this is, let me first of all put this is in naira. This is 100. So it means you are spending 100 naira in 1 hour. So it means you are doing, even though if it's 40 naira you are spending in per unit, converting it in hours, that means you will make more than 1 unit because each unit is 0.4 hours. But if you spend 1 full hour, if you are timing it, you spend 1 full hour, the equivalent cost is 100 naira. Now let's look at let's do from right to left. We have 45 naira per unit before. Then you have 0.3 hours. How many hours and how much are you going to spend per hour? That this is 150. 150. Okay. We now have 48 naira per unit divided by 0.5. You have 96 per hour. 96 per hour. Then of course we have the last one here, 30 divided by 0.25. That gives me 120. Now ordinarily, without doing all of this, you would have said, oh, because I am spending 48 naira per unit, if I were to give it out to others, I wouldn't want to spend that. Let me do it. That would have been a grave mistake that you would say this is the first one you would do, which is 48, then followed by 45, then followed by 40 and 30. That would have been a mistake because you're looking at extra costs. But I told you they have different number of hours that they spend. So if you are to use them standardly in 1 hour, how much extra cost will you spend? So now you will not say ranking for in-house. Ranking, I will say in-house. Now you will rank, the highest one is the first one you are going to do. So this is the first one. So unfortunately not 48. It's this one that is 45. This one is the highest cost. Now you would have dismissed this 30 as the lowest and you want to give it out first. But no, that is the second one you are going to do in-house. And of course, the third one you are going to do in-house is this 100. And the fourth one you are going to do in-house is 96. Now that's not all. You will now do a second ranking. Ranking outsource. Now, the first shall be the last, and the last shall be the first. So this is the last here, and this is the first to give out. This is the second to the last to make, and that's the second to give out. This is the third to give out, and if at all, this will be the last to give out. So when you have done this, you are set. What's the question requiring you? You see, we didn't read the whole question, but we started solving. Required. Which item? Somebody is asking a question. Somebody is asking why so? Why so what? Can you make your question clear so that I can understand? Why so what? I said that you have, let me explain again. You have your external cost 80 naira, 118 and 105 and 110. Your variable cost is 50, 70, 60 and 70. Okay. Person is asking, why are we outsourcing the lowest cost? We are outsourcing the lowest cost because if we do it and we give out the ones that are of higher cost, we are going to spend more. So imagine giving out this one and spending 150,000, 150 naira, and you are now saving 96 naira. Why? You rather do this one that is highest cost and save yourself from spending it. So you are saving the highest cost and you are giving out the one of lower cost because you cannot save it because of the number of hours involved. All right. So you have to do the one of higher cost so that you save that cost. You give out the one of lower cost so that that's the one you cannot save. You just have to give it out. I think this has cleared the air. We will now have our optimal production. So our optimal production, let me use a different color of pen to make it stand out. Our optimal production. Is that how the question says? What item will be produced in-house and which should be associated? Calculate the total cost associated with the optimal plan. So I will say optimal plan, optimal plan. All right, so what I will do here is I will say this is in-house. Now I will start with rank. So of course I have first, second, then we have third and fourth. Of course, I will have total here. Then I will go down here again, outsource. Is outsource. I will also have rank. So this will be first, second, third, fourth. Then I will have total. Somebody is raising his hand. Please, can you use the chat box and ask your question? Uh, can you use the chat box to ask your question? I will take your question on chat if you can. Thank you. All right. After rank, I'll put product, products. So what are the products I'm going to rank in-house? The first happens to be Y. So let me remember them. YWZX. 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 Then in-house, outsource will be XZWY. XZWY. So it's written backward. XZW and Y. So of course this is product. All right. So this is variable cost per unit. So what's the variable cost per unit here? We'll take them. Okay, I don't want to be scrolling up and down. Let's go here and bring them. Y variable cost is 60. Okay, let me say W is 50, X is 70, Y 60, Z 70. 50, 70, 60, 70. 50, 70, 60, and 70. So of course this is in Naira. The purchase cost, this will be purchase cost. Purchase costs, of course in Naira. So let's look at it here. 80, 18, 105, 110. 80, 118, 105, and 110. 80, 118, 105, 110. So these are the costs. So what happened now is quantity. So we have our quantity here. We have our quantity here. Okay. So that's as far as we can go for doing them similarly. So we have machine hours per unit. So machine hours per unit, let's write them down. 0.2, 0.5, 0.3, and 0.4. 0.25, 0.5, 0.3, and 0.4. 0.25, 0.5, 0.3, and 0.4. Let's see. Yes. Of course, the outsource will not have machine hours because you don't care about their machine hours. It's only in-house that you care about the machine hours. Then you have total hours. And this is where we will need our 3,500. So that's 3,500 it has to be 3,500. Like the question says, 3,500 hours. Then we will say this is total relevant costs, which I will say variable. Okay, now come here, total purchase costs. So I want the costs to be all aligned together because this is in Naira, this is also in Naira. All right, we are now set. We'll do the in-house first. Then the ones we cannot do, we send it to outsource. So you have set your template. Now, even if you don't put any figures, you've gotten some marks for just doing these workings, getting this ranking, and getting this optimal plan in place. Then now let's do it. What is the quantity that was demanded for the first product, which is Y? The first product, which is Y, is 3,000 units, right? So let's look at it now. Let me change the color of the pen so that we will appreciate this now. Let's say this is 3,000. So we look at 3,000 units, right? Now, if we are to look at the total hours, it will take us to make 3,000 units. If we are to put them in the machine, and the machine is taking 0.3 hours per unit. So 0.3 hours for one unit, and you are passing 3,000 units. That means you will spend 900 hours. 900 hours, you write it 900 hours here. Now you are asking yourself, is 900 hours up to 3.5? No. With 900 hours, you still have enough. So I will say now, you were having 3,500 hours maximum. Now you have given out 900 hours. What is remaining is 26. Let's remember that it's 26 remaining. Now, because you have done this whole 3,000 quantity in Y, it means that you cannot give out Y. So what it means is that 0.105 times 0 will give you 0. So you cannot spend on Y. You have saved yourself this cost. Okay, that's fine. Now, what is the total cost of making Y? You will say 60 naira multiplied by 3,000. So that's what we are going to do now. Let's leave this 26 alone. 60 naira multiply 60 unit, 60 naira multiplied by 3,000 units. That gives you 180,000 naira. So that's what you are going to spend now. 180,000 naira. That's being said, let's move to the second one. In the second one, which is W, we are using 4,000 units, right? So let's use a pencil now to write our 4,000 units. Okay, so what will happen? You bring out your calculator and you have to make 4,000 units, taking it into the machine that takes 0.25 units, 0.25 hours for one unit. That means you are going to spend 1,000 hours. So 1,000 hours. Now you are looking at 1,000. Now we have 2 6 remaining before, and now you are making 1,000. Of course, if you remove 1,000 from it, 1 6 will remain. Now that's fine. Now because we are doing the whole of this 4,000, we'll come down here in W. We are not going to outsource this. Of course, this will still be dash. Following the systematic way I'm doing it, now you'll say, you bring your calculator again, 50 naira per unit multiplied by 4,000 units will give you 200,000 naira. So you come here, 200,000 naira. Then you turn to the third one. The third one here is Z. What happens to Z? You need 5,000 units. So let's see if these 5,000 units can accommodate. So we say 5,000 units. Now, knowing fully well that, sorry, let me, now, knowing fully well that I'm putting all these lines so that it will, 5,000 units. Let's see how many hours it's going to take us. 5 5,000 units. If it takes us 0.4 hours per unit, we have 2,000, right? 2,000. But if you look at it, it was 1/6 that was remaining, and we have 2,000 just calculated. Wow, we cannot do everything. We cannot do everything. So what we'll simply do, instead of 2,000, we'll simply do the rest of the 1/6 here. We'll simply do the rest of the 1/6. So you come here and say 1,600 balancing figure. So what you do now is, you look at it now, 1/6 plus 1,000 plus 900. What does that give me? It gives me 3,500. So what it tells me here is that I can only do 1/6. That means I can do nothing here. I can do nothing here. So I can also do nothing here. That means you cannot do this because this one was supposed to be 2,000, but you are now using 1/6. So you cannot do 5,000 anymore. But hold on a moment. You said that you are not going to do X. So what it means is that this X 6,000, you are not going to do anything here. That means that's the first one you are giving out. You are giving out the whole of X 6,000 because you're not doing it here. Then look at the cost of doing it outside. So because you're not doing X here, you're giving it out 6,000, and you're going to spend 118,000 and 118 naira per unit. That means you are going to spend 708. So I'll come here, 708,000. So that's what you will spend here, and of course here is 0. Then we now come to Z. How many of Z can you do? You simply say 1,600 divided by 0.4. That will give you the number you should do. So what I'll do now, 1,600 divided by 0.4. That gives me 4,000. So it means I can do 4,000. Now you can do 4,000 for which one? That's for Z, as against 5,000. So if you do 4,000, what means is that we are going to give out 1,000. You cannot do everything. You do 4,000, you give out 1,000. And this 1,000 that you have just given out, let's see it, 1,000 multiplied by 110, and that will give me 110,000. So that's what you are doing here, 110,000. Okay, so you are going to do 4,000 now. You are going to do 4,000, multiply it by 70 naira here, because that will give me 280,000. So you have your 280,000. So now you now see that when we calculate, we have, let's use this one that has 280. This is 280 plus 200,000 plus 180,000. And that gives me 660,000 that you are going to spend in-house. 660,000 spent in-house. Okay, let's look at how much you are going to spend externally. I already have 110 here plus 708,000. That will give me 818,000. So I have 818,000 spending externally. So how much is the grand total you are going to spend? I have 660 plus 818,000. It means I'm going to spend 1478. 1478,000. So this is the grand total costs. Now, any other way you do it, you are going to spend more than you are going to spend more than this 1,000, 1,000,470. This way, you are going to spend more. So this is why it is called the optimal cost. This is the very least cost that you can spend. So that's it. That's it. So that's the answer to this question. That's the answer to this question. So you can see that's the same thing we did here in my solution here. Now, while we are looking at giving out costs outside, and okay, while we are looking at spending costs outside in outsourcing and doing some of the products, we're not only going to look at the um, financial implications. We are also going to consider non-financial implications, because sometimes financial implication will tell you give out this outside or make it in-house. But when you look at non-financial consideration, you may want to think twice because they have some impact. Now, when relevant costs are used to make decision, it is assumed that the decision should be based on financial considerations and whether the decisions will add profits, will add to profit or increase cash flow. But in reality, managers also think about non-financial issues as well as financial issues when making their decisions. Now, the non-financial consideration in any decision will depend on the circumstances and will vary from one decision to another. Non-financial consideration can influence a decision, and in your exam, be prepared to identify relevant non-financial issues in a particular situation and discuss their potential implication. Now, look at some of these things. Now, non-financial implications or considerations will often be relevant to make or buy decisions, and it will include the following. Now, if you outsource your job, that means you lose some control over the work. So it means that you know you are giving out the job to others and you don't control certain things. Okay, so it now means that, let's say you are using your label to put on all your clothes that you've made, and you are giving this out to others. Another person is making it. Of course, the person will put his label. You've lost that control of putting yours. Is going to put his trademark. Is going to show some level of ownership of the job. You've lost some control over it. It will rely on the external supplier to produce and supply the outsourced item. So it means that because you've lost some control also in terms of supply and in time, you depend on this external supplier to produce those things that you want them as at when due. Some of the risk is that your external supplier may produce substandard quality because you want to cut costs. They give you quotation and you pay them their money, but they want to cut costs. They might go and produce something of lower standard. And if you are someone who values quality, you will be disappointed. But because you can't do anything, that's why you gave it to them. So you've lost control on the standard of quality. Another thing you may lose is that they may fail to meet your production schedule. So you are telling them that, I want to supply this thing at the end of close of business tomorrow. And they have their own schedule, their own demands. So they may disappoint you and they'll be telling you, please, I am sorry. And if your job is something that you must supply on time, otherwise you lose revenue or lose patronage, you have lost some of this patronage. So sometimes, uh, because this schedule is not being met, it is possible that lack of components, because of failing to meet your production schedule by your suppliers, you will now lack some of the components that you will need. Maybe because you're supposed to make this component yourself. As I example, the last time you are producing the drink, the drink is a concern. You know bottle is supplied, crate is supplied. Because if you are producing the drink, you have the bottle, okay, right? You have the crank cork. How will you house them? Where's the crate to put them? Your supplier has not supplied you because of failing to meet your schedule. Or they have the bottle and the crate. There is no crank cork. You cannot produce because you must cock them immediately. So you see here, you have you're going to fail to meet your production schedule. The entity will also lose some flexibility. If it needs to increase or reduce supply of outsourced item on a short notice, it may be unable to do so because of the terms of agreement of the supplier. So it means that if you're supposed to um, give them 1 week notice, and that is the terms of supply or terms of agreement, and you have something that you must do and supply uh, in 3 days, you cannot. So you have lost that flexibility of, okay, can you do this in 3 days? The contract you sign is give us 1 week to deliver. And now you are saying, please, 3 days, sharp, sharp. You will lose that. All right. A decision to outsource work may have implications for employment within the entity, and it may be necessary to make some employees redundant. So because you are outsourcing, the the in-house people will not have anything to do, make them redundant. And what does it mean now for you? You may have to lay off some people because what's the point paying them when they are redundant and you are outsourcing? So it means that outsourcing has that implication. This will have cost implication also and could adversely affect relationship between management and other employees. So in a bid to keep your employees, it will increase your cost. You'll be paying them for not being productive. And if you have to send them away, you have kind of strained relationship, adverse relationship will be there. So you want to save the cost for the employees, for the employers, you want to save their costs. So you let go of some employees. It might also be appropriate to think about the long-term consequences of a decision to outsource. So all these ones now we'll be discussing, we are short-term. What about some long-term? What might happen if the entity changes its mind in the future and decides either to bring the work back in-house? That's another thing. What if you change your mind in the long run? I want to start doing this product back in this house. You signed a contract. What will happen? Or what will happen if you decide not to give the supplier that you have been giving this outsourcing before, you decide to give it to another supplier, different external supplier? So you see, you need to think about those questions when you are thinking of outsourcing. The problem might be that taking the work from the initial external provider and placing it somewhere else might not be easy in practice, since the external supplier might not be cooperative in helping with the removal of its work. They have templates, they have other things that they have been doing for you, and they will not cooperate because you want to take the work out of their hands. They will not cooperate. Another thing, what if the external supplier decides to run as a competition against you and start doing that product that you are doing, your main product, and is no longer able to to give you your components. These are other things. All these are non-financial factors that work against the outsourcing. So you now see that, oh, even though I'm to outsource, all these negative things about outsourcing will make you want not to outsource. But sometimes they, what about some of the benefits of outsourcing you can get from supplying it to an outside supplier? Some of the benefits. Some of the benefits are: one, if the work is outsourced, if the work that is outsourced is not specialized or is outside the entity's main area of expertise, then it will be good to outsource it. What do I mean? If the job that you are giving to outsiders is not a specialized job for your own, if it is not something that needs a specialization, or if it is something that is beyond the company's expertise, the company does not have the necessary expertise to handle that, but because they have that client, they must supply to that client, but they don't have that expertise. It's outside their main area. Let's take, for example, this is accounting service, auditing service. You have you are only doing accounting and perhaps taxation. You are not doing auditing. It's beyond your scope. You may need to outsource that. So outsourcing will enable management to focus their efforts on those aspects of operation that the entity does best. For example, it could be argued that activities such as the management of an entity's fleet of delivery vehicle or the monthly payroll work should be outsourced because the entity has no special expertise on these areas. So let's say you are um, in you are doing, your job is just to produce drinks and you don't have expertise on payroll, and you have plenty staff working for you and you want to do it in-house and you don't have expertise, you can contract it to some payroll specialists who will do that for you so that you will focus your attention on the production that you are doing. So that's one. The external supplier, on the other hand, may have specialist expertise which will enable it to provide the outsourced product or services more efficiently and effectively. Okay, so it means that even though you are in the same industry and you are doing the same kind of job, your the external supplier may be a specialist in a particular field and you are doing different things. And because this person is expertise, that's the only thing he does, you may be able to do it more efficiently and effectively than you yourself doing it. So this is different from the first one where you have no expertise on that. This second one, you have expertise on it, but the external supplier has more specialized expertise on it. For example, a company might outsource all of its IT support operations because it cannot recruit and retain IT specialists. An external service provider, on the other hand, will employ IT specialists. So maybe IT specialist is the only thing they do, they only do IT, but in your company you have a department called IT, and you may not be able to retain all of that. So you may be able to subcontract the IT job to this specialist so that you'll be able to manage your affairs well. And they'll be able to do it effectively and efficiently because that is their expertise. So you've seen benefits for external supplier and the merits of external supplier. So what it means is this: when you look at make or buy, or we say produce in-house or give out externally or outsource externally, when you are saying, oh, I want to outsource externally, you say, but wait a minute, what are the benefits of giving them this job? What are the demerits of giving them? Why don't I do them myself? So it means that after the financial consideration, it is the financial consideration that is the main thing. The financial consideration will give you your initial line of movement, but the non-financial will make you to rethink on what you should do, whether you should go along with what your financial decision is telling you or you should hold back. All right, now we've done make or buy with scarce resource. Now let's look at one-off contract decisions. One-off contract decisions is also what we've learned in relevant costing. Relevant costing, one-off decision. When we learn relevant costing, we said it is mainly used for sometimes one-off contracts. Management might have an opportunity to carry out a contract or a job for a customer where the job is once only and is not likely to be repeated in the future. So now that's the difference now. It's what we say in relevant because this is one-off contract, one-off. It means you are going to do this job and you may likely not do this kind of job in the future. Now the decision is therefore whether to agree to do the job at the price offered by the customer or to decide a selling price at which an incremental profit will be made. Now you see here that why is this a decision for you to make? This person is asking you to do a once and only job and is quoting a price that normally if it is your normal job, you will not take that price. Normally you will not take that price because you want to make profit. But this is just a once and for all job and is quoting a lower price. And the question is, will you take the job and do it? If it is a one-off contract rather than regular production work, it will be worthwhile undertaking the contract if there's going to be an extra revenue. And if this extra revenue is higher than the relevant cost of doing the job, which will include opportunity cost. So what we are looking at here is the relevant costs of doing the job on the one hand and the profits that you will make from doing that job, the extra revenue you make from doing that job. If you look at the extra revenue is higher than the cost, by all means, you want to undertake it. All right, so let's have the question. Just a moment. All right, so the question here, okay, before we get to the question, they said the incremental profit from one-off contract is the revenue that will be obtained minus the relevant cost. Now, take note, one-off contract decisions might occur when a company has spare capacity. Now, that's the key word, spare capacity. Because if there is no spare capacity, you will be involved in your regular work and you will have no extra opportunity, no spare capacity, no opportunity to make extra profit other than from your regular work. So it means that you have spare capacity in your hands. So it means that you don't have any job at the moment. You are pressing your phone, playing games, and now someone else says, how about an opportunity to make some extra bucks? You drop your phone and say, wow, all right, I mean, what does it implies? You now said, okay, it will take you like 1 hour maximum to do the job. And you say, okay, I have 1 hour to spare. So there's spare capacity. How much am I going to make? You know how much you're going to make. How much will you spend? Now compare. So this type of analysis should not be applied to most contract decisions. Said this should not be applied to most contract decisions. However, because the company must earn sufficient profit, so here the keyword is insufficient profit in total to cover its fixed costs and make a profit margin. Now, relevant costs do not help management to decide what the size of the profit margin should be in order to ensure that the company's overall profit is made from all its activities. These are just part of the things that you need to consider. But the key point here is the company has spare capacity, extra opportunity, an opportunity arise to make extra profits. You need to judge between the extra revenue you are going to make and the relevant costs that you are going to spend. If the difference is positive, by all means, take the job. And look at this question here. The contractor limited is deciding whether or not to proceed with a one-off special contract, or the company name is Contractor Limited, for which it will be receiving a one-off payment of how much? 200,000. So this is the price that the person who is asking you to do the job is willing to pay you, right? Now, details of the relevant cost are as follows. The special contract requires 200 hours of labor at 600 naira per hour. Employees possessing the necessary skills are already employed. So that means they're in permanent employment by the contractor limited, but are idle, currently idle. So they have spare capacity due to a recent turn down in business. They have spare capacity. Okay? Material X and Y will be used. And we are told here that 100 tons of material X will be needed, and sufficient material is in inventory. Remember when we are doing relevant cost, we will say, is the material available in stock? He said sufficient material of X is available as the material is in common use by the company. The original cost of material in inventory was 150. It's not relevant, but it will cost 180 per ton to replace if it is used. Material Y is in inventory, okay, as a result of previous over purchasing. The original cost is 50,000, right? But it has no other use. So it means that if it has no other use, this is the original cost, which doesn't make any meaning to us. If it has no other use, and we said unfortunately material Y is toxic, and if not used in this contract, the contractor must pay 24,000 to have it disposed. If you are using this, you are going to save the company 24,000 of being disposed. The contract will require the use of storage unit for 3 months. Contractor committed to rent the unit for 1 year at a rental of 8,000 naira per month. So the contractor has is committed cost. Committed cost is not relevant, but here you see here that it has been committed to rent it 8,000 naira per month. The unit is not in use at present. However, a neighboring business has recently approached Contractor Limited to rent the unit from them for 11,000 naira per month. So what it means here is you are committed for renting it at 8,000 naira per month. So they are committed to rent this at 8,000. So they are committed to rent it to someone 8,000 naira per month. That's fine. But right now, nobody's using it. So what it means is that if nobody's using it, and you just have only 3 months to just do a sharp business, one-off business, why not take the offer? Why not take the offer? All right. Overhead are absorbed at 750 per hour, which consists of 500 naira for fixed cost and 250 for variable cost. That's it. Total expenses are not expected to increase as a result of the contract. So you see here, a trainee accountant has performed the following calculation, which shows that the contract will cost 359,000 to deliver, and concluded that the contract should not be accepted for 200,000. Okay, so what the trainee accountant did, the trainee accountant is saying that this man offered 200,000. That is the uh, relevant, the revenue. So the revenue is 200,000. So you see here, revenue 200,000. And now look at the cost. The cost is 359,000. So that means you are going to be losing 159,000. So this is a loss. So he's saying that please don't accept it. If at all you are going to accept it nothing less than 359. If you even do 360, that means you are making 1,000 naira. So your training accountant is telling you don't accept it. And this is the reasoning he gave. This is the reasoning he gave. Labor hours. Look at what he did. The contract requires 200 hours at 600 naira per hour. And so what he did here was 200 hours times 600. That's what gives me this. Then he went to material X and it says 50,000, sorry, 100 tons of material X will be used, and original cost in the inventory was 150. He now came here and said that we are going to say the 100 tons that we have already multiplied by how much we bought it previously. That's what gives me this. Then looking at y is already in inventory, but it's not in any use. And the original cost is 50,000. And so they brought the original cost here, 50,000. Then he now said storage. Since you are committed to paying a monthly storage of 8,000 naira, so if you're using it for 3 months, you simply say 3 months times 8,000 give you this. Then you now come to overhead. Since the overhead is 750, it doesn't matter whether you break it down to fixed or variable, charge the whole 750 at 200 hours. What is the 200 hours for? The 200 hours required for the job. So you now do it and it became this. So is this the relevant cost? Is that how to do relevant cost? Of course not. Let's see how it should have been done. Now, the relevant cost of the labor is 0. Let's see it here. Okay. So what happened here? Let's look at this contractor limited here. I will start with a different color. This should be example. Is that example 4? Contractor limited. Okay, so I will say relevant costs of one of contracts. Okay, so what I will now do is I'll do something here. Let's look at something here. I'll bring description, relevant cost. I'll come here, description. I will come here again. I'll say workings. Then let me say relevant costs. This is where I'm going to end. But just for knowledge sake, let me say trainee relevant costs. Let's be comparing side by side. But this part, trainee relevant cost, is not needed. I just bring it here for the sake of knowledge. I'm going to bring labor, material X and material Y. So I will come here, labor, material X. This is material Y. Let me see the figure 120, 1550. So here is 120. This is 15, 50. We'll be comparing with what we have, storage and overheads. So we say storage, overhead. Okay, 24 and 150. So this is 24 and this is 150. So we say total relevant costs. This trainee is saying this is 359. We don't know. We don't know. So we can come here and say contractee price is asking to pay us 200. We are asking 200. Decision. The trainee is saying reject. Now, from your own analysis, are you going to reject or accept? We don't know. So we'll come down here to workings. So this is workings here. So we'll start with workings number 1. Workings number 1 is labor. Labor. So what happens to labor? So let's go back and read the question. It said here, the contract requires 200 hours of labor at the rate of 600 naira per hour. Now, the employees possessing these skills are already in permanent employment. So this is permanent employment. And now, but they are currently idle. So they have spare capacity. So because they have spare capacity, it is 0. So you say, since the employees are in permanent employment and they have spare capacity, the company has already paid for their time and they would not incur another cost for this special contract. So what will happen now? Labor here is now 0. Now you see a whole 120,000 saved. But it's still not up to, it's still higher than the 200. If every other thing is the same and we save 120, it's still higher than the 200 that is offered to us. We look at material Y. We'll now say material Y is in inventory. Okay, let's write it now, material Y. So let's know that it's material Y we want to do. So that's workings 2. Oh, material X. Material X. All right, so Material X will be needed, 100 tons will be needed, right? Sufficient material is in inventory. So it means that they don't need to even go out and buy. They already have the 100 tons in stock, but it is in common use by the company, meaning that as you use it, you must replace it because somebody else will use it. So what does it mean? It means if you take the 100 tons, you need to replace it at the market price. So you're not going to use this 150 as the accountant did. You're going to use this 180 because that's the market price. You say replacement cost is equal to 100 tons times 180. So that will give me 18,000 naira. So you go up now, and instead of 15,000, it is now 18,000. Okay? Material Y. What happened to material Y? Let's read. We are told that material Y is in inventory. Material Y is, sorry, material Y is already in inventory, right? And because it is in inventory, as a result of over purchasing, now that means there is a whole lot of material Y available because of over purchasing. Now he's saying that the original cost is 50,000. The original cost is not relevant. It's not relevant. So if the if the material is not in common use and is available in stock, that means if the material is not in does not have any other uses and is available in stock, according to our relevant cost analysis, we say that that product is not scarce, and we'll need to check the alternative uses of it. If it has no alternative uses, it's going to be zero. But look at it now. The original cost is 50,000. It's of no importance to us. But look at what the company stands to save. Stands to save if they use this product. They are going to save 24,000 naira. That would have been disposal cost. That would have been a disposal cost. They are now saving the company 24,000 naira. So what do? You come here and say disposal cost. Okay, that's material Y. So let's look at material Y as number 3. Material Y. All right, you say disposal cost. What's the disposal cost of 24,000 naira? Of 24,000 naira is being saved by doing the contract. This savings adds to our revenue. Sorry, what am I writing? This savings adds to our revenue adds to our revenue and reduces our costs. So you simply go here and material Y, instead of putting 24,000, it's not a cost, it's reducing your cost by 24,000. So this is reducing your cost by 24,000. All right. So the next one here is going to be storage. So you come here. This is workings number 4. Storage. So how is it our concern now? The contract will require 3 months of storage unit. Three storage unit for 3 months. The contractor is committed to 8,000 naira per month. However, a neighboring business has recently approached contractor for renting it for 11,000 naira per month. All right, so it means here that it is committed to paying 8,000 naira per month, or receiving or paying 8,000 naira per month. So what it means is that this 8,000 naira per month is what the storage units will require, 8,000 naira per month. Now the alternative is, if they don't give it out for 8,000 naira per month, they can give it for 11,000 naira per month. So what is the extra? We will now say extra costs for storage is going to give me 11. Sorry, I need to clean it. 11,000 minus 8,000 multiplied by 3 months, which is 3,000 times 3 months, which is 9,000 naira. Then we now say original cost for storage. It's going to give me 8,000 times 3, which is 24. So 9 plus 24, that will give me 33,000. So this is what is going to be. You are still going to spend 3,000 naira. You are still going to spend the 8,000, and you're also going to get an extra 3,000. That is 33,000. Is what you are going to use here. So this is 33,000. I think I will need to be putting the workings here. So this is workings 1, workings 1, this is workings 2, this is workings 3, and this is workings 4. So let's go to workings 4, overhead. Workings number 4, sorry, how is this? This workings 1, workings 2, workings 3, workings 4. So what did I do? Oh, I see. This is workings 1. This is workings 2, workings 3, workings 4, and workings 5. So let's go. So workings number 5, overhead. Now, the fixed cost is not relevant, but only the variable cost is relevant. So how much is the variable cost? Variable cost is 250. So simply say 250 multiplied by 200 hours that will be in use. So what will that give me? 250 multiplied by 200. That will give me 50,000. So that's what we are going to use. 50,000. So let's write our 50,000 here and we'll activate our calculator. I already have 50,000 in my calculator and I'll say plus 33,000. Let me add the positives first, plus 18. Then I'll say minus 24. So that will cost me 77,000. So if you are given this as your relevant cost, should you now accept or reject? You would accept based on relevant costing. So you see here that due to relevant costing, your your position is to accept because the revenue, extra revenue of 200 is higher than the relevant cost of 77. So that's it. All right. What's the summary here? We have been able to analyze relevant costs to decide whether to make a product or to buy the product. We have already seen how we can analyze one-off contracts. One-off contracts. So we have seen how one-off contracts look like, the relevant cost associated with one-off contracts. So now that we have looked at this, do we have any past question that talks about relevant costs? Let's see. Or make or buy. We solved. Did we solve this limiting factor? We did solve this. We did this limiting factor and this limiting factor. Okay. We are looking for relevant. Okay, this is decision, make or split further. That's another one we discuss. We also have decision to make or sell new products. Okay, this is a different topic. This one is asking you for type of relevant costing. This one is relevant costing, relevant cost, opportunity cost. Let's look at this 2017 question 3. Let's see how it is. 2017 question 3. Just a moment, let me see if I can get it. 2017 question. May 2017. It's trying to open. We've solved it before. I can see it here. This is what we solved before. We've solved it before. So, solved it before. All right, so if there are no questions here, we'll want to take a, a moment to look at what we'll be solving in the next class. What we'll be solving in the next class. We'll just talk a brief about it, just briefly. We will not talk into much, we'll not talk about it much, so that when we enter the next class, we will talk in full details. Let me open the topic that we'll be looking at next. It's called learning curve, learning and experience curve. Now, in learning curve, we'll be looking at when someone is learning on the job. Let's say you start doing a particular job for the first time, you'll be making mistakes, you'll be spending so much hours doing that job. If they give you a piece of job or a piece of task, something that may take you 15 minutes, you may spend an hour. An example is performance management. If you are new to ICANN and all that, and you are given this exam to write or this to solve, a question that would normally take you 15 minutes, you may spend 1 hour and you are still not finished. But the thing is, as you continue doing that repetitive task or you solving that particular question, the time it takes to do and complete that job reduces. It reduces and reduces, that it gets to a point when you can no longer reduce your time. You are now working at that particular speed. Then you can use that speed to predict how much time it will take you to do a particular number of minutes. So that's why we usually tell people that when you learn, like you are learning performance management, practice, so that by continuous practice, the speed with which you'll be you're doing the right thing will increase, and the time it will take you to solve the question, especially the exam condition, will be reduced because of learning curve. Now, the learning curve is saying here that when the cumulative units increases by 2, then the learning curve is the learning rate will be at a particular percentage. So it means that as cumulative units doubles, so it means that from unit 1 to unit 2, you will be seeing a learning effect at a particular percentage. Then from unit 2 to unit 4, that's cumulatively, that same learning rate percentage will apply. From unit 4 to unit 8, same learning curve. From unit 8 to unit 16, unit 32, unit 64, 128, 256, 512, 1024, then 2048. As it goes on like that, doubling, we call it the doubling effect. The learning rate is at a percentage. Now, it will not continue forever. You will not be learning forever. You will not be a learner forever. You know, it's when you are driving a car for the first time, you'll be making a lot of mistakes. You'll be putting L in your vehicle. People will know you're a learner. Your hand is not strong. You are still learning. It comes to a stage where you are no longer learning. You remove the L sign and you are going at a steady state. So when your learning stops, you have achieved your learning, your steady state. That's another term we'll be looking at, your steady state. So you see people telling me or telling you that, why are you making this kind of mistakes? Why are you spending too much time on this job? You say, I'm still learning. I'm still learning the ropes. I'm still learning. I need a lot of things to learn. You are in your learning stage. Then it gets to the time someone is telling you, you can't teach me my job. I've been working here for the past 10 years. He's no longer learning. He has reached his steady state. Learning curve affects everyone, even myself. When I first start teaching performance management, ICANN, the efficiency I achieve right now is not the same efficiency I achieved years back. So, but because you are doing it constantly, you find out that you are learning, continuously learning, and the time it takes you to solve problems is reduced. There are two methods of doing learning curve. One of them is the formula method, and the other one is the table method. Now, the table method requires you to use the doubling effect. So you have unit 1, unit 2, you will now have unit 4, from 4 to 8, 8 to 16, 16 to 32. That is only what the table format can give. But wait a minute, what if you are told, what do you observe on unit 30? And you look at it, unit 30, you don't have it on the table. What you have is 16, 32, or if they ask you for unit 20, you cannot measure it. And so that is why we fall back on the formula method. The formula method can be used for all types of cumulative or all types of cumulative units. Now look at the formula here. The formula is y equals to ax raised to power b. You need to know b first. B is log r all over log 2. So it means that in our next class, you need to get your calculator, scientific calculator. Then y is the cumulative average time per unit. When they say cumulative average time, it means what is the total time it takes to make all the units. Now, not only total time, total average time. What is average? Average means the total time divided by the number of units. So it means that in this formula, we don't know the total, but we are calculating the average. Now, x is the number of units made so far, which is a cumulative. Now, x is our independent variable. So x could be that 1 unit, 2 units, 4 units, 6 units, 10 units, it could be any unit. So it means that when we say cumulative, it means you must start from unit 1 down to the number of units you have now. So if you're asking you, it's just like saying your cumulative grade point average. Let me use it that way. Grade point average in your school is the score or your grade point at a particular exam. Now, let's say you are in 300 level second semester and you have your GP or GPA to be 3.0. That's your grade point for that exam. But when we say cumulative grade point average, CGPA, it means what is your grade point from 100 level first semester, going from that to 100 level second semester, 200 level first semester, 200 level second semester, 300 level first semester, 300 level second semester. The cumulative average from 100 level down to that present level. So that's why you always see your GPA will be, for those who have seen their exam slip or their transcript, you will see your GPA for a particular course and the CGPA overall. And so for you to get a first class or second class or so, it is that CGPA as at the final level that will make you to know whether you have a first class. So if it's not that you in that final level you not did excellently well, but how have you been doing from 100 level to have a cumulative effect? That's what we mean by cumulative. Another way of understanding it is this. You have your tape measurement. If you want to measure the length of 6, you will put your tape from 1 or from 0, right? And measure down to 6. You must measure down to 6. So if you want to measure 12, you cannot put your tape from 6 and start measuring from 6 to 12. No, you need to start from the origin and measure. So that's a cumulative measurement we are talking about. Now, A is the time taken for the first unit. So if it means that the first time you are given this job, it took you, let's say you are solving mathematics, this PM question or this learning curve question, it took you 1 hour to do one question. So that is the time it takes for the first unit. That means when X is 1, your A is the time it takes you to do 1 unit. R is the learning rate, which must be expressed as a decimal, meaning that if you are given 80% as your learning curve, you must convert it to decimal to become 0.8. I will go ahead and give you the steps for solving learning curve so that we will not be repeating these things when we start the next class. The general steps for solving learning curve problems are as follows. I will just read it down. The next class, we are still going to take and explain it. Number one, observe if the unit of measure of A is stated in units or in batches. So what it means here is, you look at A that is given to you here. Is your A written in units or is it in batches? This is important. If it is written in units, that means your overall answer will be in units. If it is in batches, you will give your answer in batches. So A is the deciding factor. The unit of measure, either unit or batch. Then look at the second one. Check the value of measure of it. So there is a difference between unit of measure. Unit of measure is either in units or batches. Value of measure is either in hours or naira. So what it means is that if your answer is in hours, that means you are looking at labor hours, the number of hours it takes you. If you are looking at naira, you are looking at cost, say labor cost. So you'll be saying something as 15 naira for, or let's say you're using 500 naira for fifth for the first unit. So you see here now, they have given your A in naira and in units, or you can see 200 hours in a batch. So you have seen here, you have combined the value of measure and the unit of measure. So you have to observe, what is my unit of measure of A? So that means you have to watch out for what A is in units and in value. That's the first thing, first and second thing. Then the third here is to check the value of B if it is given. If your B is given, then that's fine. You simply use it in this equation. But if it is not given, you need to find your B. After looking at A, you go to B. If it is not given, check to see if the value of R is given. If R is given, you can find B by taking the log of R and the uh, log of 2. But if the value of B is given, is okay, the value of B can be found as long as R is given. But sometimes R may not be given and B may be given, and you are now asked to look for the learning rate. You can change the subject of formula. Now, after looking at A and B, it's now time to look for Y. Find the value of Y using the learning curve formula. That's simple. Y equals to A times x raised to power B. Simple. Step 5. Find the value of T. T is the total value. You know, we are told that Y is the average, cumulative average. They said average. For you to know average, it means you must know total divided by the number of observations. You are not given the total, right? You are not given the total. So when you find your Y, which is the average, go ahead and look for T, which is the total, by simply multiplying X with Y. Then in step 6, you repeat step 4 and step 5 if we are looking for incremental value or steady state. We'll look at it. Then in step 7, find that incremental value, which is called the small t, by applying this formula, which we will discuss in the next time. Then in step 8, we are going to multiply the value of t with the number of batches remaining to get the steady state, to get the value of t after the steady state. In step 9, you find the total labor hours or labor cost depending on the value of A that was given to you. All this may sound somehow to you until we are yet to solve a question. So far so good. We've talked about the learning curve and learning experience. We're going to have a good experience, good learning experience, so to speak, in our next class, when we will take our time to digest these 9 steps that should be applied to every questions you have in learning curve. And when you do that, you will never go wrong. All right, so we come to the end of our class for today. We want to especially thank you for the support you have shown in this class when we did one of our short-term decision making. We will still come back to other short-term decision costs or making, and when we come back, I will identify what we learned in the last class and this class to better our knowledge. But for now, the next class will be on learning and experience curve, and let's see how we will fare in the next class. The recording will be sent to you after when it is ready, so feel free to watch it again and have a good time learning about this. Once again, I say thank you and see you in the next class.